What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActiveMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, hopefully still if you're still subscribed. And this is part of my Movies with Pride series. It's June, I'm also a gay film critic, and this is The Normal Heart. This is a film that is directed by Ryan Murphy. It was originally an HBO movie, so it was considered for the Emmys, not for Oscar consideration. It stars Mark Ruffalo, Julia Roberts, Matt Bomer, Taylor Kitsch, Joe Mantello, Jonathan Groff, Jim Parsons, Finn Wittrock, Alfred Molina. That's enough. Anyway, it's adapted from the work written by Larry Kramer that was written for the stage. It's a pretty well-known stage play. I know Joe Mantello has performed, and I believe Jim Parsons has also done the play as well at different points in their career. So this is possibly the best thing that Ryan Murphy's ever directed. I'm just gonna be honest. He's done some things where he's created shows that have been better than other shows he's been. He has the tendency to really touch on things that can absolutely devolve into trash. Just some absolute, really just trashy things. But then he's got some really great things. And even within some of the mid-range stuff, there's stuff that has really good episodes, really great moments. Glee is not all one thing. Glee has some really solid moments and some solid episodes and some solid characters and just some really terrific performances within that show. Even if you don't like Glee as a cohesive unit or think that it fell off in the final season, there are moments throughout the show that really work. So where they capture something, where they talk about something that matters. And I liked Glee, but I think there certainly are peaks and valleys, and that is what I'm saying. So, to talk about A Normal Heart, I love this movie. This is a movie that is not a fun time to watch, but I've seen it a bunch of times. Mainly for the acting and the monologues. I've actually tried to do Joe Mantello's monologue before. He plays Mickey, and he has such this incredible moment. He's not a big character, and I know when Joe Mantello was coming into this, he was known more for his theater work. He was not known for screen work at this point. He's done a lot more screen stuff since, but mainly because he got an Emmy nomination for this. So his scene is so powerful and so incredible that it just left me with I was like, who is this actor? I needed to know everything about that. I just needed to know more. And I wanted to watch everything that they've done. It was just I just became obsessed with Joe Mantello. So, who's gone on to direct things as well. So he's done it all. He's hitting everything. So he's a really terrific monologue in this. Also, Jim Parsons has a really nice monologue about what he does with cards in his Rolodex that is emotionally impactful. So, but this has great acting across the board. I don't know that there is a weakest link, but if I had to pick somebody, it would be Taylor Kitsch, just because it just is. Man, it just is. This is just a tough cast, and Taylor is just a step behind everybody. He just is as an actor. He's very pretty, but he doesn't have the emotional depth or range that his co-stars have. And he's given the most work. This is easily Taylor's best performance. But when you're standing among giants and you're just tall for your when you're just tall, NBA tall, and you're standing among giants And then you've got people who are like above 10 feet, and you've got somebody who's like 7 feet, and they're like, well, normally I'd be considered tall. It's just really hard. It really just explores the AIDS crisis from the beginning. We have Mark Ruffalo, who is playing a real life character who gets in at the beginning of the AIDS movement and really fights for getting information out there and trying to get people to pay attention. And nobody's paying attention. They kind of just thought, well, it's a gay thing, and good, it'll kill off the gays, without really taking into consideration the fact of how it's transmitted. By not wanting to research it, by not wanting to understand it, they didn't understand how it was transmitted and all the different ways it could be transmitted. And there was a lot of fear around AIDS that came out of a result of, touching, breathing the air of, for a while that just nobody knew. And that is part of the fear that is captured in this film, at least around when Julia Roberts, who plays a doctor in the film, when she's sort of brought in, she admits that she doesn't know, but she suspects that it's transmitted through sex, and she says, stop having sex, and they're like, you expect us to stop having sex? That's insane. And that's sort of like the bedrock for this film, is that Mark Ruffalo he becomes on board with that, and at the same time struggles with that internally. Later on in the film, he has a great moment where he says, you're asking us not to fall in love, which is a lot harder. How do we do that? Because he ends up falling in love with Matt Bomer's character. So it all just kind of really shapes together nicely, and things reflect off of each other. A moment that is small becomes bigger later on. Words that are said have resonance later on in the film. It all just kind of catches up to each other, and you see moments, and then you see sort of betrayals, and just sort of what they do to cut Mark Ruffalo's character out of the movement ultimately at the end, because he is selling this almost like a message that the other members of his group don't want to send, which is this, stop having sex. And like, he's sending shame through the community, but at the same time, he's not wrong. We did find out it's a sexually transmitted disease, so it's sort of a very conflicting moment to see them, because it's like, you understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's a weird point in history where they're still trying to figure it out. And sort of at the end, when the movie's over, we get like a trail out of information of when AIDS was finally publicly recognized, when Reagan finally talked about it after it had been going on for years, when he pledged to fight it, and then actually had a decrease in AIDS funding, and also like how many people had died from AIDS. And yeah, it's a very sober movie full of fantastic performances. I remember thinking about this movie earlier because of Fellow Travelers, which sort of goes through the same period, although it goes through a wider period of time, but it does touch through this period. And of course, I thought about Matt Bomer, and I thought about how Matt Bomer is in both of these things, and the sort of juxtaposition of the two characters that he has to play. Totally different characters in these two things. In one, he's dying, the other one he's not. He's two totally different characters. And one, he has to watch somebody die, and the other one, he is dying. So it's must have felt like a weird full circle moment for him. in that regard. So this is a mix of actors who are openly gay and actors who are not. So I think this is probably a great representation of Pride Month. I hope it is. I hope everybody acknowledges that Larry Kramer's work, which I think is astounding, is right for movies with pride. It's something that I've always loved and always speaks to me. And I think it's because of the acting. I really think the acting here is incredible. And Matt Bomer is terrific, but I can't ever get Joe Mantello's Mickey's monologue out of my head. It's just, it's like next level. He's so good. Roy Samuelson does the narration for this. It's on Max. It's the only available platform because it is actually an HBO. Although HBO has been sending a lot of their crap to Netflix, so I can't really say that it'll never be on Netflix. So who knows? But the audio description on this is really good. There's a part in the end that I really loved. It's a nice muted beat. It's not really a pause. It's more like a beat. It's a lot quicker, but it's there. And it had a lot of significance, and I really appreciated it. Just a nice beat that was in the thing that I think everybody would have been appreciative of, in terms of anybody who touched this film, from Larry Kramer to Ryan Murphy to the cast. I think everybody would have been like, yes, I like this beat. Thank you. I don't know if he was told to do that or not, but it's a perfect example of why voice acting is so important. But yes, it's like the perfect little beat. I was thinking about, though, the fact that I've seen this. I've actually seen it a couple of times, even though it's only 10 years old. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary. I've actually seen it maybe 3 or 4 times, just because I was trying to capture like the acting and get the monologues down. So I was really trying to like focus on the film. I was like really interested in this, and this was more accessible than watching a stage version of it. At the time, stage versions are limited. Like you get lucky if it gets taped, and if it doesn't get taped, then well, SOL. Gotta wait for a local group to do it, and then I guarantee you, my local community theater groups are not going to be better than this cast. So, yeah, I just wanted to absorb what they were putting out there into the world. I was just fascinated with the acting, and I just remember so much of what Joe put into his performance, into his monologue. He was like shaking, and he's just like everything is coming out in that monologue of his. And this is the kind of movie where you have to have like a reverence for the content because of what it's talking about, and the air of death that sort of carries through the whole film. But at the same time, it's really hard to fully convey how strong these performances are, how strong Joe Mantello's performance really is. I hope you pick it up in his just in his voice, because it is fantastic. It's almost impossible to describe just how intense of a moment that is for him, how everything just kind of stops. You can feel it. Like Ryan's direction of that scene is phenomenal, because he does, everything just kind of stops and just focuses on this character who hasn't said much, who's been kind of around a lot, and he's talked. He's not like a nonverbal character, but he hasn't really had a moment yet. And this was sort of like Mickey's moment, and like everything stops and he just lets it all out, and it's like a 5-minute monologue, and it's great. And there's that, and Matt Bomer, just somebody who he's always been great at playing the suave character, but he has to be frail and fragile and dying basically at the same time. He has to be able to pull both off, and he does it so well. And a lot of that is through nuance too. So it's the nuance that these actors put into their work that is really hard to capture, and you almost have to pick it up from just the general, their voicings. And for people who have never seen before and are totally reliant on audio description, I kind of wonder how much you're picking up just from. For me, it brought back a lot of the images and from having seen it, and I just don't know. So I hope that this works for people, and I think the audio description track is as damn awesome as it can be. I especially love it towards the end when it's reading the text at the end. So I think Roy's the perfect person to narrate this, understanding the tone and giving it the perfect tone that it's supposed to have. So this project works for me. I think it's a fantastic film. It's probably one of the best HBO original movies, and I'm proud to be proud about having this film in my movies with pride list. So I'm gonna give Normal Heart an A. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.